Hello guys, this is Prem and welcome to Python learning series. In this lecture we're going to learn about data types. A data type is a type of data which helps us to understand the format of a data storage. So let's take an example. Our first example is how do we store milk? So our first thing is what kind of data it is. It's a liquid, right? And where do you store milk? In a bottle, right? And our next example is how to store rice. So first thing is what kind of data it is. It's a solid. And where do you store rice? In a bag, right? So when a program store data in variables, each variable must be assigned a specific data type so that the format of data storage is defined. Okay, so these are some data types included like numeric, Boolean, sequence type, and dictionary. Okay, so in numeric we have integer, floating point, and complex number. Okay, and in Boolean we have two built-in values. First is true and our second is false. Okay, so our third is sequence type. So in sequence type we have string, list, and tuple. Okay, and our last is dictionary. So in dictionary we have key value pair. Okay, so some programming languages require the programmer to define the data type of variable before assigning it a value. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say count is 10. Okay, so 10 is an integer, right? So first we have to define the data type of variable before assigning it a value, like it's an integer in this case. So int is a data type, count is a variable, and 10 is the value. Okay, so but in Python we really don't need to do that. So in Python language, a variable's data type is automatically assigned when the initial data is entered into the variable. Okay, so let's take previous example. Let's say if the variable count is created with the value 10, the variable would be created as an integer data type automatically. Okay, so let's take another example. Say if the variable greeting is set to hello world, the variable would be assigned a string data type automatically. Okay, so let's do further and talk about type method or type function. In Python programming language, a built-in function type ascertains the data type of certain value. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say type of 222, so it returns as class int. Okay, so when you write type 100.1234, it will print as class float. Okay, so when you print type of 10 plus 12j, it will print as class complex. That means it's a complex number. Okay, so when you write type hello, it will print as string. Okay, so when you print in square brackets 10, 20, 30, and 40, it will print as class list. Okay, so when you write type of in parentheses 10, 20, 30, 40, it will print as class tuple. And our last is when we write type of in curly braces 1 colon apple, 2 colon banana, 3 colon kiwi, it will print as class dictionary. Okay, so let's go to Spider and do some practical programming. Welcome to Spider. In Spider, we learn about numeric data type, and in numeric data type, we learn about integers, float, and complex number, and then we learn about sequence type. Okay, and in sequence type, we have string, list, and tuple. Okay, so remember, we learn about these three topics, which is string, list, and tuple, in upcoming chapters in detail. Okay, so don't worry about that. And then we learn about dictionaries, and then we learn about boolean, and then we learn about type method. Okay, so let's get started. Let's take one by one. Our first is integer. Okay, so let's say age is equals to 22. Okay, so it's an integer data type. Okay, so our next is float data type. So let's say meter. Okay, meter is equals to say 100.67789. Okay, so it's a float data type. Our next is complex numbers. So I'm just creating another example, or another variable is equals to 6 plus, sorry, 6 plus 7g. Okay, so it's a complex number. Okay, so our next topic is sequence type. So first is string. Okay, so string is nothing but a word like this, like John Wick. Okay, so John Wick is a string. Okay, so whenever you are defining a string, you have to enter double quotes, okay, for each and every value. Like, you can define a string by using double quotes or single quotes, or even three quotes too. Okay, so our next is list. Okay, so for defining list we use square brackets. Okay, so I'm just list one, okay, is equals to, in square brackets we have 1 2 sorry comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 and comma 4 comma 5. Okay, so it's a list data type. Our last is tuple data type. So for tuple data type we have, okay, tuple 1 is equals to, in parentheses, okay, parentheses we have 1 2 3, okay, sorry, 3 4 5. Okay, so it's a tuple data type. Okay, and our next is dictionary data type. So in dictionary data type is in dictionary we have key value pair. Okay, so I'm just dict dictionary is equals to, in curly braces we have 1 colon a space and a value, say John. Okay, and a comma and let's say 2 colon space and value, let's say value 1, or let's say value 2. Okay, so 1 is a key. Okay, so I'm writing here 1 is a key. Okay, 1 is a key, and John is value. Okay, so same here, 2 is a key and value 2 is a value. So let's talk about Boolean. So Boolean is nothing but two values, like true and, say, true and false. Okay, so Boolean consists two values, true and false. Okay, if something is true it returns true, if something is false return false. Okay, so our last is type method. So what type method do? Type method is nothing but it will return which class is this, or which data type we are writing. So let's take integer, let's take one by one. Say I'm copying this, pasting right here. Okay, and like type 1, okay, is equals to type of age. Okay, type of age, so it'll print as, sorry, we didn't print anything, sorry, type 1. When you print that it will give like class int. Okay, so that means it's an integer data type. Our next is meter. Okay, so for that we have to print type 2 is equals to type, okay, and parentheses we have meter. Okay, and when we print type 2, it will give an output as class float. Okay, so for accessing the class of complex number, we have to say type 3 is equals to type, okay, type and comp. Okay, so comp is variable. Okay, so when we print type 3, it will give as complex. Okay, so let's talk about string. So type 4 is equals to type, and in here we have name. Okay, so when we print type 4, it will give like it's a string class. Okay, so let's talk about list class. Okay, so say type 5 is equals to type, and we have list 1. Okay, list 1, and we print type 5 to give like class list. So that's how we can check that which class is which. Okay, so that's it in this video. In this video we have learned about numeric data type, then we have learned about sequence data type, then we have learned about dictionaries, then we have learned about boolean, then we have learned about type method. Okay, so don't worry, we learn about strings, list and tuples and dictionaries in upcoming chapters in detail. So until that, goodbye and thank you for watching. Thank you.